Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube NFL prediction segment, I'm going to be giving you my preview of the 2019-2020 NFC Divisional round matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and Green Bay Packers. Now, in this one, I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers in this one I'd say a fairly close competitive battle. I look at this and Green Bay obviously a formidable home team, 7-1 at home this season. The only game they lost at home was to a very desperate Philadelphia Eagles team earlier in the season. And Seattle, though, is obvious. Nearly flawless on the road, 7-1 on the road this season shows, that this team doesn't let really a lot of distractions or extraneous things affect them. They don't let the boos or the jeers of opposing crowds really impact their play. Russell Wilson, of course, is phenomenal, and this is a game too. I like Green Bay. A lot of it is because of the dominance that they've had over the Seattle Seahawks in recent time. Seattle has lost 8 consecutive games at Green Bay, and not really the dominance over Seattle in general, but at Green Bay. Green Bay has dominated Seattle at Green Bay again. They've won 8 consecutive games against Seattle at Green Bay, and Green Bay goes into this game winning 5 consecutive games. They finished the season really on a rampage. You look at the Seattle Seahawks now. I understand they won last week, but that was against the Eagles, a 17-9 game, which really was, that was a replica really of the previous game they had against them when they won 17-9. I know that a win is a win, but when I look at this, Seattle has not really looked overly impressive in recent weeks. They won 17-9 last week at Philadelphia against a very depleted, debilitated Philadelphia Eagles squad. And then they lost the 2 weeks prior to that. They lost to Arizona in one of the games, and they lost at home to the San Francisco 49ers. To me, they just don't look exactly like a world beater right now. And you look at Green Bay, 13-3 on the season, plus 63 point differential. Seattle 11 finished regular season 11-5, of course 12-5 with the playoff win last week, but just plus 7 point differential. I understand that reflects a lot the way that Seattle has played during the season. Their games are generally very tight. They win ugly. They just find ways to do it at the end a lot. Green Bay has averaged 23.5 points a season. Seattle 25.3 per game during the regular season. You look at the passing yards per game are fairly close. Green Bay was 17th in the NFL in passing yards per game. Seattle finished 14th in the regular season, in that they're really not much better than Green Bay in passing yards per game. They've averaged about 237 per game. Green Bay about 233. And also, too, I think one of the things I like in this game for Green Bay, I look at the disparity in the pass defense from Seattle to Green Bay. Seattle is finished number 27th in the league in passing yards allowed per game. Green Bay was 14th. And Green Bay, also their defense, is better than Seattle's. Green Bay allowed about 19.6 points per game. That was good for 9th in the NFL in scoring defense. Seattle was 22nd in scoring defense, allowing nearly 25 points per game. Turnover differential dead even, plus 12 during the regular season. Now, Seattle has a little advantage in terms of takeaways. Their defense might be a little bit more opportunistic. They have 32 takeaways during the regular season. Green Bay 25. But looking at this dominance, especially looking over the last 4 games, that at Green Bay, as far as Green Bay playing Seattle at Green Bay, Green Bay has averaged nearly 33 points in per game in the last 4 games against Seattle at Green Bay. And Seattle, on the other hand, in those last 4 games at Green Bay, they've averaged 11.5 points per game. So you're talking about an average margin of victory that's like over 20 That's like 21 points. The average margin of victory for Green Bay over Seattle at Green Bay over the last 4 times they played them there is about 21 points per game. That's a disparity. So they are just like practically annihilating Seattle on average at Green Bay over those last 4 games that they played Seattle at Green Bay. So anyway, and also too, you look at Green Bay as well. They're also they only have 4 defensive. They only have 4 interceptions thrown this season. So they really don't. I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers, between the fact that they don't hardly ever throw pass interceptions, coupled with the fact that Seattle's passing yards allowed per game is number 27th in the league, I do like Green Bay to come away with this. And you look at also too. Green Bay has only allowed 26 sacks on the season, and Seattle has the second fewest defensive sacks on the season at 28. And excuse me, and also, not to be redundant, but going back to the, I mean, just the dominance that Green Bay has had over Seattle in recent time, at games played at Green Bay, winning 8 consecutive games against Seattle at Green Bay. And over the last 4 games they've played Seattle at Green Bay, Green Bay has averaged 32.5 points per game, and in those games Seattle 11.5 points per game, an average margin of victory again of 21 points per game. It's like they're subjugating Seattle on average, not just beating them. And a lot of people seem to be picking Seattle for some reason in this game. I think they're enamored with Russell Wilson and his legs, and I know Jadeveon Clowney, he's going to have to come up big for Seattle in this game, given that they do have the second fewest defensive sacks in the NFL during the regular season. They're going to have to put so much pressure on Rodgers in this game, because Seattle understands that their pass defense is not exactly stellar. They're going to have to get to Rodgers and try to get him to sack him, or try to force him to throw some errant passes. But I just think Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers is just too disciplined. I just don't think that's going to happen, and I like Green Bay to take this one at home. So anyway, people, until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.